How's it going, everybody? This is Waves back with another video on the channel. So this is going to be the second part of our complete mobile application development project-based workshop using IONIC 5 framework. So I created this first video, which is about 1.5 hours. And a lot of people have liked this and asked me to create the second part as soon as possible. So this is like a series of full app development from scratch using IONIC 5 with capacitor. So I want to show you that what we're going to achieve in this video. So in the last video at the end, we were not finished with our card for expense tracker. Also, we didn't have this fab button, we had a menu bar. So what I've done in this video is create this UI for amount, and then we got two buttons there, description, date and time, and type. We got rid of this date here. And also, if I click on the fab button, it opened up the new component, or actually the model from IONIC. I can close that, open it up, and close that. Also in this video, we basically worked on storage, so we can store data in JSON or retrieve data in JSON using a local storage, and we use the plugin from capacitor. So I'm really excited for the second part, and I hope you learn a lot from this tutorial series. Also, if you like this video, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And if you would like to help me out by donating, there's a link of a PayPal that you can use to donate if you really think this video really helped you. Okay, so let's get started. And here we got our application running. As you can see on the terminal, we got the server running. Now for this part 2, we got some agenda to finish off. Also, I want to share with you guys that I'm actually going to commit this bit here, so we know that part 1 completed here. So once you clone the repository, which is available on my GitHub, you can clone this or fork this if you want to contribute on this. You're more than welcome to do that. Let me take you to my GitHub account, and here I would like to show you the repository. And I'm gonna paste the link for this repository, which is like a public repository, to the link of this video in the description actually. And you can actually take a look at the source code if you want to. Okay, let's go back to the code here, and I would like to start the server again. Now we're gonna define an agenda for this video, or part 2 overall. So I've got this Trello board running, and I'm going to create a task for me. So I'm gonna say create, or actually finish off UI for, oops, I gotta go back. Finish off UI for expense on a dashboard. Okay, so that's the first task. I'm gonna drag this to ready for development and then in progress. Let's go back and work on this. Also, I'm going to open Adobe XD, which we used to actually create our prototype using Adobe XD. So I'm just gonna open up that, and we're gonna go to this dashboard page here. So I'm gonna start doing some work here. So create a prototype first, and then we go back and code it up. So first thing what I need to do here is probably create another rectangle there. Okay, somewhere in the middle. That looks good. And I would like to type an amount here, so I'll do amount, and then I would like to have 2 buttons. So for that, I'm going to just probably use some of the button from here. I'm gonna have to find one, so it's just probably use this one just for a reference. Okay, so I'm gonna move this here. Okay, and then we're gonna be looking at another button. So just for reference, we can choose the icon later. I'm just going to put these 2 buttons here. So this is going to be an edit button, which is already there in the UI, and this is going to be like an info. And here we're gonna have a description. So I'm gonna type here description for that. And we might want to set the type as well. I'm going to get rid of this bottom one and I'm going to expand the size of this. Okay, so that's going to be description. And then we're going to have a date and time. So let's just add another rectangle somewhere here. Or maybe let's just add text here and just define date and time for that. Like here. And then we are going to type for that expense. Okay, that's going to be at the here. So now we got pretty clear objective that what we need to do in terms of our UI. So let me just save this file. Okay, that looks good now. So here's our expense. I'm going to get rid of this bit, Now let's do a bit of work at the bottom in terms of our tabs on a dashboard page. So right now we want to finish off minimum required functionality. So user can log the expense, visualize the expense. Also, user should be able to filter by date. So I'm actually going to, for now, get rid of settings, activity, and I would like to create a proper button here. And let's just get rid of that as well. Okay, so this is going to be just a plus button. Let me just bring that in the middle like that. Okay, and let's just get rid of this bit, and for now get rid of this text as well. Okay, we just need to get rid of this line as well. Let me just move this somewhere here. That can be a fab button. Okay, so this is going to be our dashboard for now, but later on we're gonna need to add some tabs when we add a functionality of a full stack application. For example, adding an authentication system, and also allowing this app to be able to, you know, multiple users could use some sort of a budget. Okay, so we'll talk about that later. Now let's go here, and I'm going to work on this bit as well. So here we got add expense, we got an amount, expense type, description, select date, and add expense button. Okay, so we're gonna have to work on this component as well, but for now we got a clear idea what we need to do. So if I go here, click on the prototype, I would like to click on this plus button, and that should take me to this bit. Okay, so that's very clear what we need to do. Let's go back to the code, and here we got our application running. So we're gonna have to hide this some of the menus here. Also we're gonna work on this expense tab. So first of all, let's finish off some of the stuff in expense tab. So here we got amount. I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to get rid of this column, and I'm going to increase the space to, let's just say 6 here. And then I'm going to increase the space here 3 and 3. Let's save the file. And now we should be able to see no more type there. Okay, that's good. Also, maybe we can increase some somewhat like 9 here. Let me just do 8. 2, let's save it. Let's see how it looks like now. Okay, that's looking good. So that's the IONIC card, and we got this grid here. Okay, so I would like to add IONIC card header tag, and I would like to move this grid inside the header tag. And now I'm going to use the color, and I can use this color primary. Okay, let's take a look at the color scheme that we get there. Okay, so that looking good now. And then after that, we are going to use IONIC card content. Okay, and that would be, first of all, it's going to be an item. Here we're gonna have to type description. Let's take a look at the UI. Okay, so we got a description. I think I don't really need to add this item. What I can do instead, I could just pass in that description, and I could use this something like ION card or ION footer. Okay, we can say it's going to be a date and time, and then I'm going to save this file, and let's see what we have here. All right, we got the description, we got a date and time. I'm actually going to move this a bit inside the content. And let's see how it looks like now. We're going to come back and finish off this UI, make it prettier. A couple of changes that I want to do here. We are using this ion grid with the row column. Now this thing is not looking that great, so I would like to convert this grid into a toolbar. So for now, we are going to start by typing ion toolbar. Okay, and I'm going to use ion title. Okay, and I'm going to give this slot as start, and we can just say amount for now. Okay, and then I'm going to use ion buttons, and then here we're going to add ion button. So I'm going to add a couple of buttons, and in each button, I would like to add this icon. So I'm going to just copy this bit, paste it here, and then copy this icon, and then paste it here as well. And we got an ion toolbar, and let's see how it looks like. Okay, so looking okay. I'm going to move this toolbar outside our header. Okay, and let's see how it looks like. Okay, it looks much cleaner. We got an amount, and we got these two buttons. So I'm actually going to get rid of this grid or overall ion card header. So I completely don't need that anymore. So let's just save it, and let's see how it looks like. Okay, looking good. I want to move these buttons to the right. So here I would like to add slot. I'm going to say end. Let's save the file, and let's see how they move to the right. Okay, now this thing looking much better. And then for the ion toolbar, I can use primary color there as well. So it's going to look nicer now. Okay, that's good. That's what we actually wanted. So here we got actually the color is not being applied on this button. We'll worry about that later. After that, we got this ion footer, and I would like to add a couple of things here as well. So I want to add this date and time on the left, and then the type on the right as well. So for that, we are going to use, let's just say, ion label. And then here we can type date and time. And we are going to have another ion label. Okay. And that would be a type. So let's get rid of this date and time for now. Right, so our UI is looking what we wanted. I will move this to the right after some time, but now our card is looking good. So the next agenda we had to do is get rid of these tabs and add a, fab button. We go to tabs page, and here we got all the tabs. I'm actually going to comment this bit. I don't want to remove all this tabs code because later on we're going to come back and add more functionality. I'm going to keep working on this application, and I will be sharing with you a lot of things like authentication and all those features we discussed in the part 1. But for now, let's just finish the minimum required functionality for this application so we could launch it on the Google Play Store. So we got no tabs anymore. Now I'm going to add a fab button to a dashboard page. So here on the dashboard page, all the way at the bottom, I'm going to use ion fab. And I'm gonna save the file, and let's see what we get. Do we have any fab button now? Okay, we don't see any fab button, so I'm not sure. I'm gonna take you to the documentation so we can find out how to use fab button. So there's an ion fab button, and the way we use it is by copying this code. Okay, go back, and then I'm gonna paste that bit here. Let's save it, and let's see what we get here. So we are supposed to get this fab button. It's right on the top. So I would like to make this as bottom. Save the file. Here we got a primary color. Okay, that's the button. That's looking good now. I'm gonna go back to Trello, and I'm going to make this as developed. Okay, so now we got our basic UI done. One last modification that I want to do here is this is a subtitle for date. I'm not going to show a date here because date can be on the device, a status bar right on the top. So we don't really need to define the date there. And also here's a line that is a little bit weird. That's because this ion content, and I would like to get rid of that as well. I'm gonna save the file, and let's see what we have here. Okay, now we got no line there, and now it's looking much better. I can click on this today, date, category, and amount. So these are like a filtering for us. All right, so now we've pretty much done our dashboard UI. Now we're gonna start writing some TypeScript code, and first of all, I would like to use IONIC storage. I would write some helper function which will help us to store data and retrieve data from a local storage. So let's do that next. Go back to the Trello. I'm going to create a task for me. Create storage service with some helper function. Okay, let me just click on that, and I'm going to add more description. So helper function would be get data, okay, or we can say get from storage. That would be one function. Second would be save to storage, and that would take a key as string, and then the value as string as well. Okay, and that's what we got for now. Let's go ahead and do that. So let me just save this and move this to in progress, so I know that I'm working on this bit. Now I'm gonna stop the server for now, and we are going to create a service. So here's a services folder. I would like to use the IONIC G command. I'm gonna use service, and here I'm gonna define a path. So the path would be services/storage. Okay, let's save the file, and let's see. Let's enter, and let's see if we get that storage there. There you go. So we got the storage there. And one more thing I would like to do here, I'm gonna get rid of this service. Okay, and I'm gonna press up arrow, and I'm gonna type /storage. So this way I can create a folder, and within the folder I'm going to use this storage as a service. Let's press enter, and now we're going to have a folder which is the storage folder, and then we have these two files there. It's time for us to talk about how we're going to add our data to a local storage. So I want to make sure that if I run my application on Android, it should use the Android local storage, or iOS, then choose iOS, and I should be able to use the browser local storage as well. So I'm going to take you to the documentation for IONIC framework. So just a brief introduction about IONIC framework. IONIC framework provides this native which basically gets you access to the hardware of your device. Now we have a IONIC native, which is a wrapper for Cordova. Cordova has been there for a while. It's a very known project to use. It's been used to build a hybrid mobile application for enterprise, for all sort of application. But we are not going to use Cordova for storage. We're going to try avoiding Cordova as much as we can. So we're gonna go with the capacitor, which is like a native bridge between your web app and a native bridge. So it's basically creates your native project. So a lot of people use capacitor as their compiler now. You could use Cordova plugins with capacitor, so you can mix and match. Some plugins you can use from Cordova, some plugins you might want to use from capacitor. So I'm going to go to docs, and here we should have a storage. So here we got a storage API, provide a key value storage for a simple data. Okay, we got this clear get keys remove set functions there as well. So the way we use it by integrating capacitor to our project first. So let me take you back to the code. Let me clear. So here I'm going to use a command IONIC integrations enable capacitor. And it's going to install this capacitor core, and also it's going to install this capacitor CLI. It's going to take some time, so I'm going to pause the video. Once it's done, then we can talk about how we inject that plugin there. Okay, so capacitor has been added. Now we got 3 commands: npx cap, Android, iOS, and Electron. Okay, so what I would like to do here, go back to the documentation, and here I would like to copy this bit. Actually, I'm going to copy this bit. Let's go back to the code, and I'm going to paste that here. So we got a plugins coming from capacitor core, and we're using this storage from a plugin. So now we have an instance of storage from capacitor. Let's go back to the documentation, and here we got this get item, a set item, remove item, keys if we want to get that, or clear. So I'm actually going to grab pretty much the whole code from here. Okay, so let me go back, and I'm going to paste that bit here and then just use this indentation. We copy this code. Let me explain to you a couple of things here. So we are the async function set object. So it's a JSON set example. Now here it's using this user as a key, and it stringify a JSON and then the value. So I would like to have the similar kind of thing here. So for that, we are going to use this set object. We're going to pass in a parameter saying key, and that would be type of string, and then a value, and that can be a type of object, or for now we just leave that as any. Okay, I'm going to change the user to a key, and then the value would be this bit. So I'm just going to get rid of this bit, and we can just use a value there. Okay, it's going to stringify that, and here it's going to give me, like, I could use this shorthand. We could use the shorthand by just defining this key here. So what function set object is all good now. We got this get a value function, and then the set a value function, and here we got this JSON. Let me go back to the documentation. So here's a get object. So let's just copy this. I don't know where this thing gone, but that should be there as well. And we should have this get object. Okay, so get object basically will return this the key and its value from the storage, and then it's gonna pass that and return the value there. So for that, we are going to pass in key as string, and that would be a key here. So storage.get gets a key, and then it's going to pass that and then return it. Now we go back to the documentation, and here we got this get. A get takes a key as a string in an object and then returns a promise. So that's what we were actually supposed to do. That's going to be in a key. All right, that's look good now. And then we are going to just get rid of this cons here. And I'm going to use this return JSON.pass, and we can have like a type for now. It would be a promise. We can say any. Okay, and we can match that with our documentation as well. So it returns promise value as object. Let's just copy this bit instead of like, whole lot. So I'm just gonna paste that here, and that should be it. I'm gonna get rid of this JSON, get example, set example. Okay, set value, we don't need to do anything here. Get item, nope, we got this get object right there. Remove, so we can pass in as key string, and that would take a key, and we don't need to define a value there. Okay, so that will help us to remove something from our local storage. Here we got this keys function, which basically returns the keys. Let's have a look at that. So keys returns a list of unknown keys. Now for now, we don't really need that because it's basically not for our application. Let me get rid of that. Now clear is the function which can help us to clear the storage at once. Now this can be useful if you want to have authentication, and if user logs out or reset their account, we can use this clear function to clear this local storage as well. So I'm gonna leave that there. So we got about set object, get object, remove item, and clear function. Now another thing what I like to do is write proper comments and do the unit testing as well. But for now, let's not worry about those. We just finish our basic functionality, and then we can actually test our code later. Now for this video, the next thing we're going to talk about is adding a component, and clicking on this button and then opening up this, add expense pop-up. I'm going to go to documentation, and I'm going to take you to a documentation for IONIC framework. Now, the reason why I took you to the IONIC framework, we're going to have to find a component. What can be used to add an expense? We could actually use a model, something like a model. To click on a model, and it's basically showing us how the model is going to look like. So if I click on this fab button, I will have this pop up, and where we can add form to add an expense. So that seems good enough to create that. So for that, we are going to copy some of the code from here. So we're using Angular. I'm going to use this model controller to create a model. So I'm just going to copy this bit. We go back, and I'm going to go to our dashboard TypeScript file. And here I'm going to create a model. So first of all, let's import that model controller. We're gonna have to add that to our constructor. So private model controller, and then that would be model controller. Okay, let's save the file. I'm gonna get rid of this testing. Let's go back to the documentation, and here we got this present model function. Okay, I'm going to copy this bit. Let's paste it here, and then we are going to call this present model. And here we have an error. It says model page does not exist. So what we need to do is create some components for us. What I like to do, the way I structure my code, is by creating a shade folder. So I've got this directory shade, and within the shade folder, I'm going to create another directory, components, and then I'm going to create a component there by using IONIC terminal, IONIC CLI. So IONIC G component, and then we're going to define a path. So the path would be shade slash component slash, and that would be add expense. Okay, add expense. Actually, for the component, we don't really need to specify the folder there. So now we should have this shade, and then we should have this components listed within this. So we got app, shade, components, and add expense component. So I actually accidentally created that folder outside. We didn't really need to do that because the CLI automatically created that for us. So now here we got this, but also I'm gonna have to create a module. So let's just use IONIC G module, and that would be shade. That would be shade module. And we should have this shade module. I'm going to move that outside. And let's get rid of this folder. We don't need that. Now within the shade module, I'm going to add the declaration for that. So that would be add expense component. And also we're going to have to add that as entry component array. So that would be add expense component. Okay. And then here we're going to use IONIC module. And that should do the job for now. So here we are going to add this module to our dashboard module. So I'm going to go to dashboard module, and I'm going to import that shade module. Now I'm able to use that component. Okay, so we go to dashboard component, and here I'm going to use add expense component. Okay, so within add expense component, I'm going to go and show you what the kind of HTML we have. So shade components, add expense, and click on this add expense. So pretty much it says add expense work. So what we need to do here, I'm going to go to pages. Let's just go to account. I'm going to copy some code from here, something like Ion toolbar, and just something that will show us what it's opening. So let's copy this, and then we're going to go to add expense. I'm going to paste that, and here it should say add expense. Okay, let's save the file, and I'm going to go and run a server by using IONIC serve command. Now once our server is running, we should be able to click on this fab button and open up this model. So let's close some of the files. Go to dashboard, and here's a function present model, and then I'm gonna call that on this fab button. So here we got on fab button. Let's use a click and then call that present model. Let's refresh, and then I'm gonna click on this fab button, and that opens up this add expense. Now here we don't have this dismissal, so for that I'm going to go to add expense HTML. And then here we are going to add on button, slot would be end, and that can have like just X. Okay, let's verify we have that there. So I'm gonna open up this expense, and we got this X there. I'm gonna use this outline as fill. Okay, that looks good to me. Now on this, we're gonna call this function. We're gonna create this miss model. Okay, I guess it's gonna be dismiss like that, but I don't know about the spelling, so dismiss should be fine. And then we're gonna call this bit. Let's copy this, go to the dashboard, and here we are going to go to add expense component TypeScript file, and here I'm going to add this private model controller, and we use this model controller from IONIC Angular, and I'm going to call this dismiss, and then that will use model, and then call this dismiss. Then we can do just then catch for now. We can worry about testing later. So now we've got this button on dismiss model. I'm going to click on this plus button now and click on this button. It should dismiss the model now. As you can see, it's dismissing the model. Okay, so we got our one component add expense happening. Now I think this is the time we end this video. It's already long. Now we're going to be creating some more logic in the next video. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.